Happy Tuesday Night Live, everybody. It's me, Aggie, and
me, Shelly. You have two sniffly, sneezy, coffee achy girls here.
yeah, we're both a little bit under the weather, but maybe the painting pumpkins will help us feel better.
Maybe we'll feel better. The girls in the membership class earlier were teasing us that we've somehow given each other our germs over the internet being live together.
I
So
think I gave it to my dog, Charlie. I think Charlie might have a cold. He's been
poor
rubbing
thing.
his eyes. I was telling Shelley right before we got started here.
Poor thing.
His snout and his eyes, he keeps rubbing them. I might have to take him to the vet.
Just another thing. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia. What did you think of last week, Marcia? Did you paint at all?
Marcia's
Okay.
Marcia had hers all laid out and ready to go.
Yeah.
She's a pumpkin girl, so she was excited to get going.
Um, yeah, I really do want to paint tonight. I have oh, here, let me add this in here, and oh, I can't do that because then you can't hear me. I have to make this. Sorry, Shelley, for a second, I'm going to
Okay.
make this
No,
the
go ahead.
solo screen. So I do have, I have the sample here, and I've got this one last week. It seems like forever ago. Was it just last week?
Yeah, it was just last week.
Wasn't that a month ago, Shelley? Near the end of the recording last week, I showed you how to put this wash in. I think we did. Did we do 2 layers? Yeah, I think we did 2 layers.
Did we do a wash last week?
Well, we did. We put this in last week.
Why do I not remember that? Where was I?
You were there at the very end, near the end. I know, that's what I'm saying. Well, now you're making me question everything. No,
No.
I'm pretty sure I did it towards the end of the video last week. And she says she's ready to paint the vines tonight. Oh, you painted the pumpkin? Yeah, that's great. So I've got my butcher's tray. Marcia, do you use a butcher's tray? Or maybe just a regular palette? That's totally fine too. But look, this is basically another palette. I've got some green here, brown, cool yellow. I've got different. This is an old palette that's been sitting around for a couple of years. It's still very usable.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry, here. Sometimes it's hard manning the cameras.
It is. Too many buttons to push.
So I do have all of my paints, and I've got my Holbein palette, my Holbein metal palette. Marcia says she uses a palette tray. Okay. And I don't know. Let's just talk about filling the palette a little bit. It's hard. It's like a commitment.
It is. These paints are going to dry in the little wells, and I didn't want to fill it up and later be like, why did I do it that way? Once they're in there, they're kind of set. Look at all those pretties.
Look at all my pretties. So I mean, this is a lot of money right here. Oh my goodness gracious!
It is a lot of money.
The palette was $50, right?
And it's crazy.
But this is something that I guess I'll leave in my will to my granddaughter.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? There'll probably be some colors that I'll go through. Who knows? I might just, travel around the world and just, paint watercolors and use up all of these and need to buy more. Wouldn't that be fun?
Painting spree? Yeah.
I dream about that sometimes. Do you ever imagine having a watercolor class in France or something?
I watch David Becker, it paints sometimes, and I'm always so envious of the places he goes and the things that he paints. That'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be fun? I know. I don't know how he's got all these great connections. I'm going to have to go to one of his. I tried going to one of his classes, and somehow I missed it. It wasn't at that place. It's usually at this place on Thursdays. And on his website it says yes to Thursday at so and so place. And I'm like, okay, well it said yes, so I went and oh, I'm so sorry, but this changed at the last minute.
Oh,
Uh, and he says, you don't need to come to my classes. You're an excellent watercolorist. I'm like, I don't think you know that for sure. He's so nice. It was very nice of him to say that. So anyway, back to the palette. Okay, Shelly has hers filled.
me too.
Shelly, show us yours.
Let me turn us down here. I still need to get a second camera so I can do this easier.
They look so moist and good.
Yeah. So I was playing with them a little bit earlier, so I did spray them down, but
They look really good. So what's unique to the Holbein paints is that they don't have ox gall in them. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
All other watercolors have. So these are vegan. They're vegan friendly. And my nose, I'm going to silence myself because my nose is dripping. TMI.
Gotta have the Kleenexes close. So when you look at the palette, it does have, that each one of the little trays kind of angles down, so it's deeper at this, this corner of this side than it is over here, deeper at this side than it is over here. So as I was filling mine, I really tried to be sure to get the tip of that little watercolor tube right down in those deepest corners and fill that in the, more solidly, just so that as we put water in it and paint, it doesn't hold a bunch of water back there. I kind of, want to be able to work the wet side. So that's one little thing with filling your palette. But
and I can show that. I can show how to squeeze a couple of these tubes in. I mean, you're not going to use the whole tube, obviously. You just want to fill it about how much Shelly filled hers. And they're not going to fill perfectly flat. In fact, you keep talking and I'll get my first color ready to put into the tray.
Yeah, so I think that I used about maybe even like a little more than a third of the small tubes that Aggie has, and just tried to get a good base of color in, and it was really fun. It was really fun to do, fun to play with, and I kind of just grouped my colors the way that I thought made the most sense for me. I've added a new blue, so that one is kind of over here by itself. But that's going to happen as you build colors. Yeah. I mean, I have enough paint left in my tubes to probably fill my palette, at least once more, maybe even more than that.
Well, yeah, and I obviously used this before.
Yeah.
But there's enough in here. I do want this because this is kind of a cool yellow. And you don't need to do anything to the tray beforehand. You don't need to, I don't think so. Yours didn't beat up. It doesn't look like your paints beat it up at all.
I didn't do anything to mine. I had read some people saying they scuffed the surface. I didn't on mine.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to remove this third camera, and if you want to narrate this, you're more than welcome.
Be the narrator. Yeah, so see how you just really kind of try to use the tube to squeeze it down as much as you can into that back corner. It's not, like Aggie said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you get, that deep corner filled, you'll have a better luck with your palette as you use it over and over and over again. It's so fun
Yeah.
to see all the colors.
And of course, save this. You know, we can get all of this out of there. We can literally cut this open. I mean, this stuff is expensive. Don't waste anything.
Right.
You know, so I am going to save that. So that was, now one of the most important things is to remember what you put where. So I'm literally going to leave that laying there. What I could do is just record it for now on a notepad, and I am going to make a custom color chart for this. So for now, I'm just going to write this quickly. If I could find a pen.
Just so if it gets knocked off, it's not gone. I actually set up my color swatch and divided it all out with the sections. So
yeah, I'm going to do that in Procreate, I think.
Oh yeah. But as I was filling, I just went ahead and wrote the name on my little map here. But yes, you definitely want to write it down, because if you don't have it recorded, you're never going to know. You won't be able to look at them and go, oh yeah, it's that color.
Okay, so this is, and with Holbein, they've got this W number. This is really old paint. This is the new packaging. It looks like this with the really big W number.
Yeah.
So you could put either one, but I think it helps me more to know the color name. So I'm just going to write down that it's Permanent Yellow Lemon. I could certainly put the number too.
That's a good idea.
That's what the first one is.
I didn't add the number to mine.
Yeah, I mean, this Aureolin is a really nice color too. I don't think I had this on the list, but so I'm just going to squeeze this one in, and then you'll get the idea. I don't think you need to watch me do all of these, but
yeah. So what I did was I filled my palette, and then you just want to let it set overnight until those dry. And then I came back in after they were dry to do my swatch. I just felt like that was, I was going to get more of a true sense of painting in the swatch if I was working from the dried palette. And if anybody watches this and has any questions about how they should organize their colors, you can certainly ask. But I don't, I researched and looked into it, and everybody kind of has a different idea. I ended up sort of having cool colors down here, kind of getting warmer as it went around. But I don't think that, I mean, there are no rules. Just do what makes sense to you.
Well, here's one thing that I thought of for whatever this is worth. If you've got a handle in yours, which this one does, this one has a handle over here. A lot of them have a little handle, which I'll probably never use, but that's for literally putting your thumb through in case you're doing outdoor painting or whatever, in case in case you want to hold your palette in your hand. But because I don't have a mixing area right there, I figured that I would, I don't know. I figured that the colors that I really do want to have next to an open mixing area are my blues and greens. So I put my neutrals, my really dark darks. I'm usually taking my dark colors like Payne's Gray and Windsor Black, or Mars Black, sorry, and bringing them over into a mixture. And so since there's not a big mixing area here, I figured that would be where I would put these. I'm going to put these over here next to the area that doesn't have a mixing area. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's good thinking. I ended up doing that by accident, but
oh, good. And then I do have a very big tube. I bought this by mistake a couple of years ago. So I've got this one. I'm not going to, why buy the Holbein brand when I've got this? Don't worry about mixing brands of watercolor paint. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, most watercolorists do that anyway.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to use, hey, Dolores. So I am going to use, let me just turn this so at least I'm getting in here. I am going to use my burnt umber light, or I mean, that's an acrylic paint color. My burnt umber Winsor Newton in this palette. So I'm going to move these over and I'll have this here. That's where I had that sitting. And then I'm going to go right into now Prussian blue is very similar to Payne's Gray. I happen to have this. I don't have a lot left, but I really do love this color. I don't think I put this on the list of colors, but I will swatch all of these out and show you, and it might help you make some decisions if you're, thinking about what colors to buy. But anyway, if you look at what I've got here, I've got, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, peacock blue, cerulean blue, phthalo blue, and then I've got these four are for greens. So I've got, darks, dark neutrals, blues, and greens. I mean, you don't have to do it this way. I'm just showing you,
Sure.
And then these, I've got three different shades of, well, no, this is sepia.
Oh.
Sepia is a very nice color to have. Sepia and indigo, believe it or not. You can do entire paintings just with these two colors. They go a very long way. In fact, if you're on a budget, just buy a 5 ml tube. It'll last you a while,
Yeah.
But anyway, then I've got mineral violet, another Winsor and Newton color. I would prefer getting what Shelly has. Shelly, show us your Quinn violet. It is so pretty on your color swatch. Yeah. So that Quinn violet, I definitely do recommend the mineral violet. Quinn violet would be like a red violet that could, go with it. But I've got ultramarine violet because, it's a tube that I had when I was teaching with Winsor and Newtons. So then I've got quinacridone magenta, opera, scarlet lake, brilliant orange. I put my burnt sienna next to my burnt sienna is essentially very close to orange. Excuse me. And then I've got raw sienna next to that, permanent yellow deep. And then I've got this weird color that I've seen David Becker use called, I don't know how to say it, Yuan Brilliant number 2. And that's
I've never even heard
there.
of that.
It's probably a great skin tone. It's like a peachy yellow.
I like it.
So I'm going to have all of my wells filled. And then, of course, I have the aureolin and the permanent yellow deep. So, again, I'm not going to do that on camera. That would probably be boring as all get out. But I think what's nice about this is you could do everything. Landscapes, you can do florals, you can do animals, you could do everything with this. Portraits, everything, literally.
Yeah.
So, but the funny thing I wanted to talk about was, why is it so hard it was a little bit hard to do those. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, I'm making a commitment.
It is. It's hard. Well, they're going to stay in this palette for a very long time. These colors, unless you're watercoloring every day a lot, these colors will last a really long time. So it feels a little bit like.
Well, here's one that has been around a while. And look how it's almost empty. Sorry about the coughing. I mean, I painted a lot of florals with this.
It's well loved. It's one of the, when I took some art classes, one of the first days, you go into this class, and the instructor said, I want you to take all of your, and we had different supplies that he required, but I want you to take all of your chalks that I had you get. I want you to break them all. We had even like wax colors, that he wanted us to break it all, because he said I don't want you to be so focused on just keeping everything perfect. I want you to use this stuff and dig in, and it's not precious. Don't think of it as being some, precious thing you have. So it's so fun to see the palette that's all well loved and
It is.
used. Hi,
It is.
Teresa.
I had an instructor once at the American Academy. I took illustration, and he started the class off. He gave us all. Hi, Teresa. He gave us all golden pencils,
Oh,
and he said, I chose the color gold because it's so valuable what you can do with your skills. And I want you to I mean, I thought it was so sweet of him that he came up with this whole
I love it.
thing about, the power of your mind and your creativity. It is gold. It's like gold. So,
I
and
love
see, I
that.
still remember it. I still remember it all these years later.
Now I want a gold pencil.
Okay, so what should we do? We should paint, right?
I feel like I'm behind. I purposefully didn't start on mine because I truly did not remember that we that we that we started it last week.
Did we do it? Did we start it last week?
We must have. We must have. I don't know.
Well, so all I did for that first layer with watercolors, you want to start with your lightest colors first. So I would start with the lemon yellow, Shelley. Put the
Yeah.
lemon yellow down for, I think that's what I did. And then I
So
kept
I
on
have
talking, and
I
I
have the
added a yellow orange to deepen it a little bit.
I have the cad yellow light. Maybe the Naples yellow would. Maybe the Naples yellow would be better
Um,
for what I have.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how opaque Naples is. I always think of Naples yellow as being opaque, but I'm thinking about acrylic paints, I think. So I'm going to spray mist my watercolors. I have very little yellow left in here.
Jane is saying she didn't think we started either. Thanks for being in my corner, Jane. Even if
How did this get done then? How did this get on here? I mean, I'm not being mean. I mean, I don't remember when else I would have done this.
you painted in your sleep.
That could be.
I'm just going to use my kneaded eraser to get a little bit more of my.
I might have to go back and look. You're getting up on me now. Hey, Jean, how are you? No, we must have done that. Marsha,
help Aggie. She needs someone in her corner.
I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Oh, here. Painting pumpkins in watercolor. This is the one from last week.
That's funny.
How can I override and just do? Oh, I don't know how to do this stuff.
You're gonna see Higgins' nose come up to help watercolor in a second. See, Dolores is helping you. Dolores said she thought that you did a little something with the strokes and then you couldn't stop.
Okay, Marsha says I did start the orange yellow pumpkin. I am seeing it now. I did yellow first. You were busy talking. That's why, Shelley.
That's what I get for running my mouth and just chatting all the time. That's what happens. Yeah. I love getting together with friends and painting and making stuff, and I always want to stop and just talk.
I actually feel better. I actually do. I feel better. Well, so I got to wait for you to catch up.
No, don't wait for me. I can catch up.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's do the little. Wait, where's my other pumpkin?
I can't wait to see what Marcia painted.
So I'm going to
Jane-
do the same thing. I'm going
Jane,
to paint the pale yellow, the light yellow green for the leaves. I'm sorry, you're
I
talking
was
to
going to
Jane?
ask Jane if she has watercolors. I think she'd said that she does.
I bet you she does. All right, so you're really not going to hear me talking too much. I'm just going to, so that we can split the screen.
We can just watch you paint, and then you can talk. Yeah, Jane says she has lots. I had a lot of little miscellaneous palettes, just little sets that I had purchased over the years, but I really didn't have a nice palette until Aggie started talking about wanting to do these watercolor classes. We need to be able to hear Aggie. She's much more, she has much more experience with the watercolor than I do. I always feel like after I do a painting, after I do an acrylic painting, I have a hard time, like, I mean, you kind of have to get the watercolors out and kind of acquaint yourself again with them a little bit. It's it's a little bit, they're so different to use. Jane says collecting watercolors is akin to collecting teas. I know, my tea loving friend. That's so funny. I'm gonna have to take myself out of here so we can, because I can still talk while my.
I'm sorry, Shelley. Oh, all we see is your palette. See, that's what I feel bad. All I see is your palette. I should have, you know what? Let me figure out if I can switch my microphone to the other camera. Let me do that. I did it earlier today, right? I think I did. I might have to go out and come back in and change my set. Oh, I can't really do that. I have to change my settings. Well, see, it does say that my Logitech is the sound.
No, can't hear you. I noticed that Aggie wet her paper before she started. I kind of like starting with dry paper usually. But that's just.
You couldn't hear me when I switched it over. I don't know what's going on. It's saying that. Did I cause an echo?
We
Oh,
could.
it says I can hear you. Okay, wait. Let me remove. Sorry about this.
Yeah, I can't hear you. No. Yeah. I think we can't hear you when you're.
All right. Well, that's the reason why I have both cameras on me. I guess I have to get with them and find out why that's happening. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Oh, we could do this.
Well, we should make me little and make yours bigger.
Here, let's just do this then.
Because I'm just showing what you already did last week.
Oh, how's that?
Yeah, that looks perfect.
I had to switch the order. Okay, so what I did was I wet the leaf first to get my very pale yellow in, and I used cad yellow lemon, sorry. And now that I was messing around all that time, it's probably, well, that still feels pretty wet. The nice thing about the cotton paper is it really does stay wet quite a long time. So now I can come in with a slightly a greener version. And, you can simply let it mix right on the watercolor paper. So I'm just going to grab, I've got all kinds of green over here. I don't know why it looks so funky. Sometimes it looks funky on the palette, but you can still use it. So I waited a little too long, and this got a little bit too dry that it's not going to flow into my other colors. So I'll have to, the whole thing about watercolor is that we want that movement. We want it to flow and move. So that's okay. I'm going to empty my brush of the green pigment that I just had in there. And then I'm going to rinse it and just get a little bit of water. And again, like I mentioned last week, you want to always use the same jar that you're grabbing from, and it becomes a muscle memory habit, because you want to always, tap that jar and swipe it along the edge of your jar. Swish vigorously, tap it on the edge. This is very important, believe it or not. Hi, Brandy and Lori. This getting the excess water out only happens if you consciously tell yourself you got to slow down and wipe the bristles against the rim of the jar. Because if you've got too much water in this and you go back to your painting, guess what's going to happen? The river is going to flow, right? Sometimes we're not ready for the flowage. So I kind of wet that, and now I'm just painting the other side of it. I saw a reel of somebody painting today a hen or a chicken. Did you guys see that by chance? It was absolutely stunning. She was such a good painter.
I didn't. I missed it.
It was really something. So that looks pretty nice. I'm going to do the same thing to this other leaf. I'm kind of almost outlining. How are you doing, Brandy? And, you might notice sometimes I'm almost like, it looks like I'm pecking at it. You can basically just drop the color on by kind of dotting it in there, and it will flow and move. Or you can, do a brush stroke. But really, if it's depending on how wet the paper it is, it's all about how wet the paper is. Depending on how wet the paper is will determine, how much it moves and flows. If you've got too much of it all blending together, you can, yeah, it was a chicken in watercolor, like a hen. And it starts off with a beautifully painted eye, and then she pans out and you see the rest of the chicken. I mean, oh, it was gorgeous. So, sorry, I did that without explaining. I didn't like how this was starting to push around too much. So you create a thirsty brush by just gently blotting your brush to make it really dry, and then go in there and just pull up some of that water out of that big wet area. Now, the problem is wherever you just created a dry area, if you try to go paint that now, you're going to create a hard edge because there's no more wetness in the paper. So you have to wait for that to dry if you want more blending. So while that's happening, I do have a wet edge on the outer edge of the leaf. I'm going to go ahead and just add, and again, this is, I forgot the name of it now. I had it on my tip of my tongue a few minutes ago. You could just drop color in like this. What do they call that again? Nobody knows. You just drop it in.
I don't know what word you're searching for.
Yeah, I don't either. Otherwise, I'd say it. That's okay. It's just dropping color in, something like that. All right. So now I'm going to go to this other leaf. Well, I did wet this before, but of course I let it dry again. And I'm using a really small brush. This is a number 3.
Pouncing. I think Jane is right. Pouncing it in.
No, it's not pouncing.
Not pouncing? That sounded right.
No, it's basically we're dropping pigment into a wet puddle. It's a watercolor term. Darn it. Watercolor term for dropping in color. All right, so now I'm going to do it right here. Just drop it. Oh, I forgot to put my yellow on first. And you know what? It probably won't really matter. Brandy, do you have watercolors? Shelley's in deep concentration.
I'm just enjoying listening to you talk. It's kind of nice to just sit back and paint a little. And
now here I chose a slightly different yellow. So it's the same principle that we talk about with our acrylic painting. Dip into another color. Don't just use one color. I used a slightly warmer, I don't know what this color even is, but. So now this is kind of dry, but I'm going to go ahead and add in a second layer. And I'm going to try to leave some of those areas dry this time. And that'll be my very lightest value in those little areas right there. And I'm going to get maybe a darker, cooler green over here.
Yeah, Brandy says she has some and hasn't used them. She's excited to learn about them.
Good.
They're really fun. I find that I can be just a little more free with them than, that just the nature of them kind of requires you to be a little more loose, which is nice.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to warm up your greens with, even a bit of burnt sienna or, orange or something like that. Don't be afraid to have some hard edges. So, I mean, I'm kind of belaboring this because I'm talking about it. You could do this so quick, you know. So I'm going to let that dry a little while. I think I even have a teal color. You know, what if we
Oh, a teal would be pretty, yeah.
dropped a little bit of that in here? You know, use your artistic license and kind of push the boundaries. I do love this teal. I think it was cobalt teal. This is probably Winsor Newton's cobalt teal.
Yeah, Jane said she went searching for us and all she found was people talking about dropping color.
Dropping color. Yeah, maybe there is a word for it. I'll find out what it is one of these and I'll let you know. It's not flooding. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so that green looks really nice next to that orange. The main thing is you want to see that the colors are enhancing each other, and I
Yeah,
think
that
they
looks
are.
pretty. Yeah.
Now this little tiny guy, you're going to need a small brush for this little pumpkin. I do have a size 1. This is a 6150R. Super small. It just makes it easier. And I think I am going to use this teal color that I've got here. And I think what I could mix with that is a little bit of raw sienna. Wouldn't that be nice?
I think raw sienna is a perfect color for, it's one of my favorite colors to use, really. I love raw sienna.
And it
And then
really
even,
is going to give a nice neutral-ish color. So I'm going to paint the shadow side of it first. I did not wet this first this time. So this whole part over here is in shadow. And then I'm going to basically paint over the pencil lines sections of the little baby pumpkin. So I will say, when it comes to watercolor, it can be a little more critical that you kind of know how to draw, because right now I'm technically drawing in this pumpkin, but I have a pretty good base drawing of, you know, of the pumpkin on there to go by, you know?
yeah.
Okay, so that's it, but it's really harsh. So right away now, and I'm sorry, this doesn't show really close enough, but now that I've got that on there, I can kind of wet next to it and soften that line really quick. I have to come in here and work pretty quick to soften that up. And the thing about pigments is that some of them are staining and some of them are not as staining. The staining pigments are harder, more difficult to soften because they just kind of sit there, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of watercolorists wind up, you know, choosing specific pigments because of their ability to be able to manipulate them like I'm doing right now. You know, there's certain pigments that are easier to soften and lift,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's not bad. Now I feel like the shadow side of the little pumpkin is too dark, but I can come back in and lighten that. But more than likely, I'm going to come back in and do another layer. So I think it'll be okay. Charging, that's it. It's called charging. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, letting, well, I don't think of charging as mixing pigment on paper, but basically charging is like letting pigment charge into the puddle on your paper. That's how I think of it. All right, so there's our cute little pumpkin. My next pass, I'm going to use a slightly warmer version of the mixture. This was mostly the cobalt teal with raw sienna. My next pass, I'll have it a little more of the raw sienna mixed in there with it. Shelly, that's looking so good.
It's so fun. I'm much slower at it, but I keep watching what you're doing too.
Oh gosh, my mouse battery is dead now. I tell you, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong today. And you know what? I've been taking it all in stride. I'm like, okay, well, doing the best I can.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So I cannot change the cameras at all until I charge my mouse. Okay, so Dolores found the same. Yeah, charging. Charge. So now for the stem. The stem is like essentially, you can make your stem the light wash that you put down first can be any color, honestly. I guess I used a yellowy green, and then I made the dark part of the stem blue green. So, whatever. I'm going to wet it first. Is Jeff golfing tonight?
Jeff actually has a business dinner tonight.
Oh.
And it's so dang hot that I was kind of glad that he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting crazy even here in Wisconsin. There's all these warnings about the heat tomorrow. So I'm going to use the same leaf green and drop that in here. This will be the lightest shade of the stem.
Do you like having a piece of paper beside where you're painting to try out your colors?
I do, but I don't have one tonight. Probably.
Yeah, I like doing that. It's just
that is a real good idea.
Sometimes with watercolor, it's just really hard to see once you've mixed it on your palette exactly what you have. So
it is. Yeah, you're right.
A little paper beside you is nice.
So now I'm going to grab a little I do have this really dark brown color right here. I'm not sure what this is. Not on camera. It's just it might be like a sepia or something. But I want to make it a little bit cooler, so I'm going to add some blue to it. I don't know which blue this is. So this looks like a nice blackish color. And it's going to kind of bloom out. So I'm going to be careful not to put too much down. I don't want the whole thing to fill in. And I like the hard edge on the stem. I'm going to let that stay. And with the same darker color, I'm going to come in, and you want to make sure the mini pumpkin is pretty dry, but I can outline the edge of this little stem right here. All right. It's so small.
Jane is saying she finds it difficult to have to be thinking light to dark instead of medium dark, then light last. I Yeah,
Yeah, it's different.
I always think of watercolor as kind of sneaking up on it a little bit, you know, like just kind of starting slow, building the colors. But it's a different, I guess that's what I was, you know, trying to say earlier too. You know, after you spend a little bit of time doing acrylic paintings, and then you sit down and try to do a watercolor, it's like, wait a second, what was I doing?
I don't really find it that difficult. I guess if you're sitting down and painting this and you want to get a really nice blend, you just intuitively know that you kind of need to get the light on there first. Well, not necessarily. And you don't even really totally have to put the lights in first, but you want to save where the white highlight is going to be, the
Yeah,
really lightest part. And you don't want it, if you don't want to have a lot of hard lines, you kind of have to paint that light part in first. Does that make sense?
that's what I was going to say. It's kind of like preserving those light areas.
You could paint the darks in. You just need to make sure you're really leaving lighter areas,
Yeah.
especially where your highlights are going to be. And a lot of people use that frisket stuff. What is it called?
Oh, the masking?
Masking stuff, but oh, it leaves such hard lines. I don't really like it. I have it, but it really leaves such hard lines. Okay, so I have my warmer version of the mini pumpkin color mixed, and this time I'm going to wet it, but I'm going to be really careful that I leave a hard area for the highlight like I did on the first one. So basically I'm painting a rectangle that's going to be a highlight. It's hard to say this. I'm painting a little rectangle. Inside the rectangle is the white highlight. Does that make sense? Outside of it is the warmer version of the color that I'm adding. It's very hard to explain that. I don't know why.
It's hard when when you have a cough and you don't feel great. It's hard to get any thoughts to kind of come together. It is. It's like, what am I doing? What was I saying?
And then I'm just filling in, beyond the highlight rectangle that I painted, if that makes sense. So it's a little darker than my first one. Now this is really, really shiny wet right now. And I do want it a little softer. So again, I made my brush thirsty and I'm just picking up some of the paint to soften this edge just a little bit.
I should have taped mine down too.
It helps.
Yeah.
But if you've got a nice sharp highlight, it really helps. This one's a little bit mushy. I wish it was, but again, I can come back in and add another layer, but don't do it now. So one thing I want to talk about is the sheen. You really are constantly evaluating how wet the paper is by looking at the amount of sheen on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, super, super shiny. I mean, it's not much. You can't even really work with it when it's sopping wet and super, super shiny. You kind of have to let it go into the paper.
Yeah.
And it starts to look velvet. It starts to look different. You can tell when it has kind of soaked into the paper. You know what I mean? And then it almost looks like, oh, it's about to dry. You get to where you recognize, uh-oh, this is right about to dry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it really is an exercise in kind of managing your brush, managing your paper.
It is. I feel like what I need to do now is make my stem a little bit darker. And I think that layer did dry. So I'm going to go back in, make a little bit more of this blue and this dark brown. And I'm just going to come in here and maybe try to get some of these little lines. So I've got some lines on there, and then I want to charge the very edge of it. And again, I guess maybe in a way I am letting it mix on paper because I'm dropping in a dark brown and it's going to kind of blend and go up. Okay. And sometimes when you've got a lot going on with an area that you just painted into, you might want to just let it dry before, and you can always come back in and do more.
I feel like that the paintings change a lot as they dry too. You know, you kind of have to assess as the paper dries what you want to. I don't know. I always look at it. I always go back and look at it and go, oh, wow, it's prettier than I remembered it being.
Well, the one thing that can happen a lot is that watercolor winds up looking so much lighter, you know, than what you planned.
Yeah.
It dries like 20-30% lighter than it looks when it's wet. So that can be, it's like, oh, I need to go back in and do more to that, you know. It's just that just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So I do have a mistake I made last time. I didn't paint the little back humps of the
Oh yeah.
pumpkin. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to put a yellow orange back there. And I think I like this yellow orange. I think I'm going to bring it around and kind of start outlining. And I'm just going to work one section at a time. So this section right here, I'm filling with this yellow orange, you know, near the bottom. So I outlined the section and painted in the bottom with that. And so now I can kind of do a lighter wash blending into what I had previously. And I'm going to try to maintain that light yellow that I had there. Okay, so you gotta work quickly. So I did that. Now, since this is all wet, I can put my dark in. And so I can use like burnt sienna. Here's a burnt sienna or burnt umber or whatever, you know. There's also a lot about the thickness of the paint. So obviously the thicker, the more opaque it's going to be and the more coverage, the darker you can make it. So this is definitely a little bit thicker. And I just outlined with that brownish color. Now I'm going to rinse my brush out. And I don't want it too dry, but I'd rather have it a little drier than wet. And I'm going to come in and soften that edge. And I got to do this quickly while it's wet or I won't be able to do it. And all I'm doing is I just softened the edge, and it's like really one chance to get in and do that. If it's not perfect, that's okay. You can come back in and do it again, but don't keep messing with it. Watercolor does teach you to stop messing with it. So now I can skip this section and go to the middle section so that I don't have, because if I come in here and fill in this, I might make this bleed. So I'd rather work on the middle section now. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with this yellow-orange outline, and I'm doing this wet on dry. So let's come around this side. It's wet on dry. Just going to outline this entire section. Okay, got that outlined, right? I could probably bring it in a little bit more, but what I'm going to do is use this brush with water to soften that color that I just made, and it will pull it in. It'll make it move in a little bit. And where the edge of this wetness is, I'm coming in with a dry brush and softening once again. So, I mean, I may not have a perfect blend here right now, but I can come back in and add just a little bit more, maybe even a slightly darker orange now. I think I actually used red. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know, maybe you want to use more of a burnt sienna, but I don't mind it. So now, again, while it's wet, I'm going to grab a darker brown. Again, my paint is just a little bit thicker of a mixture. And I'm going to outline this edge. Now, it is going to bleed in. Wherever it's wet, it's going to move, but that's okay. We can soften it again in just a second. You okay, Shelley?
Yeah. I'm just having so much fun.
I don't want quite as dark a line at the top, so I'm going to mix a slightly lighter color for up here. Oops. I forgot to empty my brush a little bit, and it flooded. But that's okay. I softened it. I caught it.
That's the other nice thing about having the water that you're used to. You don't get the water all the way up on your barrel of your brush. I hate it when you get this drip that kind of surprises you as you're.
Yeah. Darn it.
Exactly. Where'd that guy come from?
It is fun. All right, so now I'm going to do this last right section, same exact thing. And, you know, it could probably be almost all yellow-orange or orange, whatever this is.
Higgins, you're not helping. Go away. Dude.
Okay, and then I'll put some darker brown on the edge of that. He's like, well, Mom, what are you doing?
Why are you
You
not
should
paying
be
any
giving
attention?
me all of your love.
And it's dinner time.
Is he still a big eater?
Oh my gosh. We cut a watermelon yesterday. Because it's so hot, I like to give the chickens some watermelon.
Yeah.
And he just kept begging for watermelon.
I know. Charlie loves watermelon too.
It's for the
funny.
chickens. He didn't care.
He's more important than the chickens.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so then I'm going into this section here.
See you later, Brandy. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brandy. See you later.
We forgot to draw our winner.
Oh.
We'll have to come back.
Yes.
I didn't sorry. I didn't put it in the picker thing. So we'll have to come back in and
how do we do that?
So I'll go back to the comments from the last live and pick from there. But
oh, okay.
You know, we could do another one in this live if you want.
You want it? I mean, we have to do it next week, right?
Well, yeah. we can have
people.
Yeah, they can comment on this one, and then we
could do 2 drawings next week, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think we did. If you comment #waterbrush in the comments of this video, then we will pick some winners who will send watercolor, the fun water brushes that have the water in the reservoir. They're really fun to use.
And here I see a hard line forming, so I'm going to soften that right up. Could probably just wet this whole middle here, since it was still wet. Now, if you do that at the wrong time, it couldn't cause problems. But anyway, I'm going to put more yellow in here. So just flooding a lot more of that color in there now. And I like that a little better, I think. I think I had it, I had it just a little too whitish looking. Okay, and then I'm going to do this section now. Getting a little bit faster with it now. You get a little more comfortable, right?
Yeah, you kind of get the feel for it a little bit. think I'm going to turn my camera around and watch Aggie keep working on hers. Oop. Wrong way. My nose is going to be runny if I keep leaning over that any longer. Like,
that's what I've got going on. Yeah.
Don't want to sniffle too much.
I know. I can't stand when I hear people sniffle.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah. So I'd rather just inadvertently, deal with it. But you don't have to hear it.
I love going back into my pieces with the paper towel a little bit, just to dab little areas. It's kind of fun how you can pick up color that way too.
Yeah.
So are you doing just a little bit of a wash there to?
Yeah, this was that shadow
Accentuate,
that I dropped in a minute ago, and now I'm just kind of moving it around a little bit more. It was kind of sitting in the wrong spot. So really, I'm just creating more layers of the dark.
Yeah, it looks so pretty.
Thank you. It's okay. I
need
to definitely need to watercolor more. So this section looks so yellow, and I do like how orange this one looks, but I know I had to come back in and add a glaze of orange, to get it to look more orange. Although pumpkins kind of do look more this color, don't they?
I think it's no matter how much you try to recreate a painting that you did before, you'll never get it exactly the same. It's kind of fun to see the different things that happen in different paintings.
Maybe I'll put a hint of some browns in the stem. Stems are so interesting looking, aren't they?
The pumpkin stems really are. They're so textured and interesting.
Okay, and then I think we could put a little shadow underneath. So for the shadow underneath, I'm going to switch to a slightly larger brush. I got a number 3 here. And again, I could just use the same grayish color. It was this blue, which I don't know what blue it is. Might be Prussian.
Dash boy.
Excuse me.
Hi, Barb. Yeah, I love those, the real textured pumpkins. Boarded is probably the right word. They're so interesting. I love those like ghosty blue ones.
I know, I love those. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, they are.
And I love just going to the pumpkin patch places and, looking at all the cute stuff. All right, the shadow really does help.
Yeah. Oh, bless you.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
I need it a little bit darker. Kind of needs to have some black in there. So there are times when you're going to need black. I just sniffled. There we go. I did it. I don't want to do that. All right, I'm going to silence my mic and take care of some business. Oh, Marcia says she loves warded pumpkins.
That would be interesting to try to paint, that texture on a pumpkin like that. My other favorite fall decoration is the Indian corn with all the amazing colors. I love that. That'd be fun to paint too. All the colors.
All right, let's see. So now I think I can go back in and do I could do a little bit more on the leaves, I suppose. I could do a little bit more on could do the vines, and I need another layer on the little mini pumpkin, right? Oh, it looks so blown out from the light. Hold on.
Hard to get good pictures. Yeah, that looks so pretty.
Okay.
But the black really does make it pop.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I can't now. It's too dark now without the light for me, and then on camera it just gets so blown out looking. So this edge got a little bit too much for me. It is wet still, so sometimes you can press into it with paper towel.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and that's probably okay. I mean, I might be able, again, if it's not too staining of a color, I might be able to soften that.
Yeah, that worked really well.
Yeah. And it bloomed a little in there, but I actually kind of like that it did that.
Bye, Jane. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, we
Bye.
kind of
Oh, I like
went
that.
we kind of went long today. We kept everybody a long time.
Did we? Oh, it's 7:18 already. Oh my God. Okay. So, I'm just going to do a really quick second little layer on there. Super quick. And a couple vines and we're done, right?
Yeah, are we painting pumpkins again next week? I thought we were going to do. Yeah.
Should we do it? I should try to come up with a different one. Right? Or should we do this one again?
I don't know.
These are pumpkin cards, so.
Yeah. Hi, Higgins. You sneaking up on me? Yeah, it's fun at having them as cards. See if I can get mine in here. Mine's only partially done, but it's nice heavy paper, so the inside is still really nice even after you've painted on them.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, right? Okay, so there's that one. And then I'm just going to do a quick little vine thing.
You're moving the table.
The vines are fun.
Yeah, definitely make sure that your paper is dry before you try to do those, or you'll have a blurry vine in the background.
Right? All righty. Good enough, right?
It's beautiful. You got much farther than I, but you had a head start.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, you guys. So next
Yeah,
week,
that was fun.
we'll do a drawing. We're going to give away some water pens. I mean, not water pens, water brushes.
Yeah.
And Barb says, retry. I love the idea of them being cards. I know, right? Yes, yes, yes. We'll make plenty of pumpkin cards. We could probably do a much looser version of this. And I love the idea of a warted pumpkin. Hi, Charlie Doodle. Hey,
It's
sweet
Charlie
boy.
Doodle.
Hello. Don't put your nose in the watercolors, please. All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out. We'll be back next week at 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, I can't wait.
Thanks, Shelly.
Fun.
Thanks, everybody. And if you have any questions, for sure, just drop them in the comments. Happy to help. Marsha, I want to see yours. We do have a community tab. I don't know if people know where that is, if they can post in that.
I don't know.
We have a community tab on our YouTube page. I'll try and post a photo there. Maybe that would help you find it. Marsha, if you see it, maybe you could post yours there. All right, my friends. Hey, Lori. All right, I think that's it, Shelly. You got anything else?
I can't think of anything else. I'm going to paint a little bit more on mine too.
Okay.
Hopefully next week we'll both feel better.
Yeah, I hope so. All right, my friends. Talk to you later. Bye.